short webinar. Should only take kind of 20-25 minutes, just to run you through this software. So my name is Connor Quigley from Safecare Technologies. We're a Cork-based company. We provide AAC, assistive technology, environmental control, sensory rooms, etc. So look, things are pretty much going as normal within the company. Assessments, loans, setup, trainings, everything is going as scheduled for now. So if you need any of those services, do feel free to get in touch. If you don't know some of the products that we work with, here are some of the brands you may be familiar with. Tobii Dynavox, obviously we're talking about today, BJ Live, RayAdapt, AbleNet, Abelia, Praetorian, and a few more. So today, we'll just keep going through it. We are looking at a piece of software called Control from Tobii Dynavox. So Control is relatively new. It came out with the new version of eye trackers, the IS5 from Tobii Dynavox. So it's launched about a year now. So it is a new eye gaze software to interact with Windows computers. So it's a way of controlling your Windows computer. It is quite different from previous versions of, say, Windows control software from Tobii. So it's got a new feature called Interaction First, which allows you to use your computer comfortably and at your own pace. So that's probably a very strong point about Control, is that the user can now do it at their own pace. And I'll explain more about that shortly. And Interaction First allows the user to select the object that they would like to interact with before they decide what they would like to do. So if you are kind of familiar with previous versions of Windows control software, you had to choose what you wanted to do before you chose what you were interacting with. And the menu looked something like this. It would either be on the right-hand side or the left-hand side of your screen. And here you had your left click, your right click, your double left click, etc. So you had to choose what you wanted to do before you actually interacted with anything. So with Control, they've reinvented that. So this big circle is called the trace within Control. So that's, you interact directly with the object you look at when you're ready, and then at your own pace, eliminating extra steps. So Interaction First ultimately makes interaction faster and more intuitive. So you don't look to the left or the right of the screen before you do anything. You look directly at what you want to interact with. And of course, I'm going to show you examples of this shortly. And then the interaction menu is much more centralized within your screen. So it's in the center of your screen. It's not to the right or the left. So again, that kind of reduces fatigue, reduces kind of eye travel around your screen, makes it much more intuitive and interactive for the user. So so here is what your interaction menu will look like. But again, I will go through this in a bit more detail shortly. So computer control, the way kind of Tobii are putting it, is that you're gaining more independence by using your device without the help of caregivers or family members, etc. It allows you to be more independent. It's more intuitive and more natural for eye tracking. So again, as I said, it's more central in your screen. You're not looking to the left and the right more often. So again, you're reducing that fatigue, and then obviously you're empowering yourself to achieve goals that you want to achieve with your computer. So getting started. So if you have Control software, there's a new eye tracking settings feature that comes with it. It installs with the new eye trackers. So we generally recommend that you use this to set up, your calibration, etc. So the eye tracking settings, it's not hugely different from previous versions of setup software. So here's just, if you're familiar with kind of how to calibrate and set up your eye trackers, this looks very, very similar. You can set up profiles, you can manage your profiles, you can check previous calibration results, you can test your calibration, you can change between tracking your left eye or your right eye or both eyes. You can customize then how you set up your calibration. Do you want a 1, a 2, a 5, or a 9 point? So do you want different, background colors, etc. If somebody has maybe particular types of visual impairments or something and they need a brighter background during calibration, you can do so, and so on. So again, you can change all these settings within your calibration settings. You can check your track status and check your distance from the eye tracker, and then you can run a calibration the same as you would previously. So again, look, there's nothing really kind of new in this piece. There's nothing kind of unfamiliar to people who may have done calibrations or set up eye tracking in the past. So that's, that's your kind of your setup. Pretty straightforward, and pretty similar to the way it was. But once you've got that done, you start control software. So you've got your calibration done, you've got how you want to interact done. So you'll start control software, and then you have some settings within that you will set as well. So once I start control software, immediately you'll see, once it loads, you'll see the trace function that I spoke about, this circle. So that's tracking your eye, that's moving around the screen. This is how we interact with things on the screen. So by looking below the screen, I'm bringing up my settings menu. So within here now, I want to change maybe some of my settings. Here's the guide to tell me what is what is here, what I can do. Can I quickly calibrate? Can I cut, copy, and paste? Can I bring up my notepad? Can I put my computer to sleep? So I did this by just looking at the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to open my settings because I want to change some settings within the control software as well. So here you can see there's things from activation to the keyboard to the calibration. So if I go into activation, I can choose, am I just using eye gaze? Am I using eye gaze with a switch maybe? So some users might use a switch with it. How long I want to interact with something before it clicks. What's my kind of speed on that? What's my dwell time before I select something? So again, the user themselves can adjust all these settings using eye gaze, as I am here. I can change the visibility of the trace. I can adjust the target. So I'll talk about adjusting targets in a while. There's an auto way of doing it. We're going to do it manually today. And then if I have an eye series, I can make some of the edits myself on the system. So the eye gaze user has a lot of flexibility in how they can set up their software. The calibration, yes, we've already done it, but there's options here to do a quick calibration if you want to change things. If you're maybe using your eye tracker outdoors, you might want a different calibration for outdoors. And then my keyboard. So again, am I using gaze for keyboard, or am I using a switch just with my keyboard? What's my dwell time on my keyboard so I can have a different dwell time to the rest of the screen? Do I have an adaptive dwell speed where it'll automatically adapt to the speed at which I type? So again, the eye gaze user can change all these settings themselves. So it's very easy for them to do it. They don't have to rely on other people to do it. As well as the keyboard, we can change what mode we use the software within. So we're using it in advanced mode. I'll show you how to use it in simplified mode shortly, which is, if I wanted to use sensory software like Look to Learn or Magic Eye Effects or something like that. And then continuous mode, I'll also show you. That's a feature that I'll show you shortly as well. So that's your mode. And then your general settings are things where you'll find your license codes, your language, things like that. But auto launch is probably something in here that people will use. Just means that the software will automatically launch when you turn on your computer. So that's obviously very important for eye gaze users, that they don't have to rely on somebody to turn on their software. So now we've done our calibration. We've got our software set up in the way that's customizable to us. Now we need to get to know it. We want to start to use it. So we're going to kind of have a look at the trace function here, which is that circle we spoke about, and I'm going to bring up that interaction guide and how we interact with it when it starts. So again, here's my trace menu. Anywhere I focus on the screen, actually that happened a little bit fast. I'll show you that again. So once I focus my vision on the screen for a period of time, I've selected slow. It can be fast or medium. If you want, you can change the time. This little kind of circle pops up. That brings me to my interaction menu. So once I select that, then this is my interaction menu. But again, this is our first time using it. We don't know what any of these buttons do. And this can lead to, if we don't know what they are, people might select the wrong thing, and it can lead to kind of, not getting the interaction they're looking for. But on certain menus within the software, you'll see this kind of info, this eye on the right-hand side. That brings up a kind of an interactive menu. It's a quick start guide. And when this is brought up, eye gaze is disabled on the screen. So the user can look at this without selecting anything, without, mistakenly selecting right click when they should have selected left click. They're just getting familiar with what this menu is. So they can have a look and say, okay, actually, I want to use left click. So I know what that is. And the only button that works with eye gaze on this is the hide guide button on the right-hand side. So once I look over at that, it turns off the guide, and now I can select what I want to do. So I'm going to actually just turn it off here because we're not going to interact with anything. So that's the interactive menu. we can slow everything down. I can see what I want to do. There's no kind of rush for me to do anything, and that I can kind of take it at my own pace. So now the next piece we're going to show is how do you actually select something. So when we actually interact with something on the screen, it moves it into the center of the screen. So we then have a centrally located user interface, which this improves the accuracy because it's the best trackable area of the screen, while also reducing the eye travel and fatigue, which I spoke about a while ago. So you move your trace over a suggested target, and then you use the interaction menu to select. If you have missed your suggested target slightly, you can use the adjust tool to correctly select. So here I'm going to move my trace now. So I'm going to bring up my trace, and say if I was looking for Google Chrome, I'll move my trace over Google Chrome. I'll fixate on it for a period of time. I'll bring up my menu, and as you can see, it's moved Google Chrome into the center of the screen. So Google Chrome was on the left hand of the screen, but once I selected it, it automatically dragged it into the center of the screen. And now everything I want to do, I use the menu in the center. So we can see my crosshairs is directly on Google Chrome. So I'm in a good position if I wanted to select or do anything, but I'm not going to in this stage. In this instance, I'm going to try and select Microsoft Edge. But as you can see, I've slightly missed my target. So in previous versions of software, we might have to X that and try again until I get accurate on Microsoft Edge. But by using the auto adjust tool, which is this one with kind of 4 arrows down in the kind of bottom left corner, once I select that, it brings up, kind of zooms in, and now I can select accurately Microsoft Edge, and then I can click on that and allows me to interact on it. So there's only kind of reduces the amount of clicks. If you make a mistake, that's okay. We can adjust it to make sure that we can accurately select what we wanted to interact with. So again, that can kind of reduce the amount of steps we take with eye gaze and can reduce fatigue, etc. So here I'm going to kind of show an example of using a few of these features together. So we're using the trace to select the browser, which I'm going to select Google Chrome again. From the interaction menu, I'm going to use the click function, so whether it's a double click or a left click, and then I'm going to use auto adjust to navigate if I miss something, and then I'm going to use the scroll function as well to browse pages. So again, let's look at this in action. So again, I select Google Chrome, I fixate on it for a second, I move my trace over to it, I fixate, I've got a pretty good target on it, so I'm going to double click on it to open it. This will now open Google Chrome. I want to use the search function. So I've slightly missed my target. I'm going to adjust and bring it down into the search bar, and then click. Now it's brought up. I'm looking for the Examiner because everyone in Cork reads the Irish Examiner daily. So I'm going to move down. I've missed that again. So obviously I've searched for it before. So I'm going to click on that. This brings up my Google search for the Examiner. And now I'm going to left click on the top result, and this is going to load my web page. So again, I can kind of look around the screen without kind of lots of things happening, wait for the page to load, and now I want to scroll down. So again, I'll fixate anywhere on the screen, bring up my menu, and now I'm going to use the scroll function. So now it just tracks my eye wherever I'm looking. So I can scroll down through the screen, I can go fast or slow. I can go up, down, left, or right, depending on the page we're on. And then if I find an article that I want, I just use the X on the right, close it down, select what I want to read, open up, and click. So again, very quick, very intuitive, very kind of easy to follow, not very stressful. So yeah, using the trace, the click, and the scroll function there as examples. So that's kind of how we would interact and move around. Obviously, you can bring up your keyboard to type if you wanted to search, etc. But we're going to keep moving through this and look at some of the other features. Here, the click and drag function is also very good feature, very easy to use, and quite a neat feature. So again, I can bring up my trace. Again, in this instance, I want to actually move Google Chrome to somewhere else on the screen. I bring up my menu. I don't actually know where, I might go back a little bit here on that just to show you that again. So in this instance, I don't know which one of these is click and drag. You might have a guess at which one it might be, but I'm a little bit unsure. So again, I'm going to use the eye at the side, the info. So it brings up my kind of guide. It tells me what all of these buttons are. So again, none of these can be activated by eye gaze. So I can have a look and say, actually, look, this one is click and drag. I go back into my menu. Now I've got this radial. I want to move it to here. Pick on the screen where I want it. And I'm going to put it here. Drop and gone. And it's as simple as that to click and drag things around the screen. So very kind of easy feature to use and very kind of useful for eye gaze users, maybe to rearrange their screens or to move certain things, or if you're using specific types of software that require click and drag a lot, it's very easy to do so. So that's kind of some of the features on the on-screen stuff. So we'll look at the off-screen menu. So again, if you're familiar with some of the Tobii products, if you look below the eye tracker, it can pop up an off-screen menu. So you just look at the bottom of the screen. It can put us in continuous mode. So continuous mode would be if we just continually wanted to use a left click, or if we're continually clicking and dragging something. So if we're working on a design software, or if we're working on AutoCAD or something like that, and we want to click and drag and move stuff around, we might just keep it in continuous mode. We can do a quick calibrate, and we can open different tabs on our desktop. So again, we'll show this. I look below the screen. I'm going to bring up the tabs. So this is showing me all the tabs on my desktop that are open. So if I wanted to select between different tabs, I can do so. I can, easily bring them up rather than having to use the bottom menu. I can pause. I can put it. This is continuous mode now. So I've brought up continuous mode. Again, if I don't know what these are, I can bring up my info. And again, this is showing me what continuous mode I can put this into. So do I want to left click? Do I want to click and drag? Do I want to hold and drag? Whatever it may be. I can also do a quick calibrate from here, and I can also pause my eye tracker as well. So again, I'm in continuous click there. So that feature is quite good for people that want to continually do the same thing over and over again, and they don't want to use the interaction menu. So there are some of the features. Again, we're not going to go a huge amount into it because time is restricted, but obviously not all of our eye gaze users use Windows Control for controlling their desktop. They may want to use it with other eye gaze softwares like Look to Learn or Magic IFX, etc. So we changed the mode in settings from advanced mode to simple mode. So again, I look at my off-screen menu. I bring up the settings. I go into the info, and I want to see where I'm going here. So I'm looking for settings again here. So I'm going to select settings. We were at this menu before. I'm going to go into mode. I'm going to open mode. I'm going to change this to simplified. I'm going to go back out. And now I don't have the interaction menu. It just moves my cursor, shall we say. It's moving it around. I'll open Look to Learn. I'll say, for example, here we can see what's on this. I can either show the trace if I don't want, if I'm working with, say, if I'm a therapist or working with someone, I mightn't want to show the trace because sometimes that's distracting, and we just want, blank interaction where they don't get distracted by the circle moving around the screen. So when I open Look to Learn, I'm going to leave the trace on in this instance. I'll open up one of the softwares, one of the activities, start, and now my menu will disappear, and now, as you can see, I can start interacting with it as I would in any version of eye gaze software. So that's simple mode. Again, primarily used for maybe somebody that just wants a simple left click, and that's all. We don't want the full interaction menu, or if we're using it for sensory software like Look to Learn or Magic IFX as described. So that's a very quick run through on control software. If any of you want more demonstration or a bit more of a look into it, feel free to drop us a message. We can do a one-on-one training with you guys or for your team. If you're wondering where you get control software, it automatically comes with the i13 or the i16 or the new PCI. So you'll automatically get it with those new eye trackers. And there's quick links in TD Snap and in Communicator. So for example, if you're using maybe a text-based user of Snap, they can just simply go into the dashboard of their communication software, and you'll see different options, but there's one there to launch computer control. So the user might move between their AAC software and their Windows control software, which is control, so they can control their desktop, access their social media, access the internet, and then they can flip back into their AAC software for communication. So that I hope gave you an overview of computer control. If there's anything